welcome back for a really fun holiday project. I just love stockings, so I'm so excited to be making this stocking today. Let's go ahead and talk about the supplies. You'll definitely need some yarn. I'm using a worsted weight 4 labeled yarn. I will be using the wool of the Andes from We Crochet. This is the white, the Wreath heather, and the camel heather. Those are the 3 colors I'll be using for mine. Feel free to mix it up. A great substitution, if you want an acrylic substitution, is Brava, which is also from We Crochet. I love those color tones as well. You will also need your yarn needle, stitch marker, because we are working in the round continuous for this. You'll definitely want a stitch marker, some scissors, and then of course a crochet hook. I have 2 here because I just wanted to show you. I thought I'd bring in a red hook today just for something a bit festive. This is the Furls Streamline from Furls Crochet in the size H, 5mm. And this is from my Amazon curated shop. It's listed in there. And this is also a 5mm crochet hook that is also acrylic. So there's lots of tools out there. You pick whichever style or whatever tool you like best. I also love clover. If you like the clover hooks, those are my jam too. It really is personal preference. But I thought I'd show you these cute red ones I found today, and I will have links for those on the blog. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to be starting with my white yarn. I have chosen the best background I can for this. When I tried darker ones, it really was having struggles with the white yarn and the dark background. So I'm really hoping this works today. You can feel free to comment and give me your feedback. I'm always looking for what works best, and I'll continue to shop for more mats to record on. So today we're going to start with doing a magic ring or magic circle. I have a tutorial for that on my blog if you're not sure how to do it. And we are going to be single crocheting 8 stitches into that ring. You can always start with a chain 2 and then single crochet 8 into the first chain. And then we are going to leave our circle open. Just so you know, I don't like to close it all the way, because it makes it a bit easier for round 2 if we don't pull that all the way tight. Now for round 2, we will be doing 2 single crochets into each stitch around. So we will be increasing from 8 stitches to 16 stitches, but we are not joining for this pattern. We are simply going to use a stitch marker to keep track of our stitches. And we're going to go right into that first stitch there, and we are going to do 2 single crochets. And then we're going to mark the first stitch in our round. We don't want to lose track of it. And continue to work 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch around, increasing the stitch count to 16. Ready for round 3. I'm going to go ahead and move that stitch marker for a second. I can pull my ring tightly closed. We are ready to keep rocking and rolling here. And for round 3, I'm going to be doing a single crochet stitch into each stitch around. So no increasing on this round. Be sure to mark that first stitch in the round. And we're simply going to be single crocheting into each stitch around. Now for round 4, we will be doing increasing again. We will do 2 single crochets into that very first stitch, and then be sure to mark the first stitch in the round, and then we will single crochet in the next. And that's our repeat around. So once again, that's 2 single crochets into the next stitch, and then 1 single crochet into the next. That will increase from 16 stitches to 24 stitches at the end of round 4. And then for round 5, you're simply going to single crochet in each stitch around without increasing, and then come on back for round 6. For round 6, in our very first stitch, we will be increasing. So we will do 2 single crochets into the very first stitch, and then mark that first stitch of the round. And then we will single crochet into each of the next 2. And that's our repeat around. So 2 single crochets into the next, that increases by 1, and then single crochet into the next 2 stitches. Repeat those steps around, and by the end of round 6, you will have a total of 32 stitches. And for round 7, we are simply going to single crochet into each stitch around, then come back for round 8. We can see our toe is starting to take shape here. It's so adorable. So for round 8, we will be doing an increase again. We will single crochet 2 into the very first stitch and then mark the first stitch of that round. Very important to not forget marking that first stitch. Then we are going to single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And that's our repeat around. So it's 2 single crochets in the next, and then single crochet 1 into each of the next 3 stitches. Once you are at the end of round 8, you will have 40 stitches, and then for round 9, as you may have guessed, we're just going to work around doing a single crochet stitch into every stitch around without increasing. So come on back for round 10. Now for round 10, we will be increasing again, but this will be our last increase round. So we will single crochet 2 into that very first stitch and mark our first stitch of the round. And then we are going to single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So once again, our repeat around will be to do 2 single crochet stitches into the next, and then crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And then for round 11, we will be just doing 1 round of solid single crochet stitches, and then come on back because after round 11, we will be starting our beautiful stitch pattern. So now we're ready to work on our beautiful stitch pattern for the foot. We will continue working in the round continuously without joining, so you want to keep track of that stitch marker. So the very first stitch in this round, which is round 12, but the first round of our stitch pattern, will be to do a split single crochet. If you've never done one before, I have several patterns that do and videos that explain what a split single crochet is. But if we were to look at the anatomy of a stitch, we see that on the front there is a V. We will be inserting our hook into the center of that V. So not up here where we normally do, but down here in between that V. And on the back side, as we turn it, it will come through an upside down V on the back side. We'll yarn over and bring up a loop, and here's the most critical part of working a split single crochet. You want to bring that up to the height of your current stitch. Because we're working down a little bit farther on this stitch, we have to pull it up a little bit further to get it to the height of a regular single crochet stitch. So then I'm going to yarn over and complete that stitch. That's my first stitch of the round, and that is a split single crochet, also known as a waistcoat stitch. The next stitch, we will do a single crochet into the back loop only. So we're skipping that front loop and we're only going through that back loop, and then we will complete that stitch. And that's our repeat. That's all you have to know to do this really cute stitch pattern that has a really nice knit look. So we do a split single crochet and then single crochet in the back loop only. If you struggle on some rounds to get into that split single crochet, it means that you're not pulling up your loop high enough when you're doing that stitch right here. You want to make sure that comes up. You should not have any difficulties doing that split single crochet. If you do, you might want to loosen your tension, and first thing is to lift up this loop higher than you normally would with a single crochet. I'm going to work this round, and I'm going to come back for the next round too to show you how to keep going in the stitch pattern. Now for the second round of our foot, I'm going to move my stitch marker, and you are going to be doing the same stitch of whatever the stitch the round below is. The pattern repeat is exactly the same. We're doing a split single crochet as our first stitch and marking it. And then we single crochet in the back loop only for our next stitch. So a split single crochet in the back loop only, and it will be the same as the stitch on the row below, and it makes such a beautiful knit look pattern. You can already see it starting to work up there. We are going to be doing this section for a total of 24 rounds, just repeating and repeating, and then we'll come on back and talk about the heel. So here we are at round 25, and I just want to note this is like a larger size of a stocking. So if you wanted to do something a bit smaller, you would just skip that last increase and only increase to about 40 stitches, and it will be a little bit narrower. So for this heel though, I want to talk about what we're going to do next. So here I am on round 25, and we're going to do what's called an afterthought heel. That means we're going to chain, skip some stitches, and then keep on going in the round and leave the opening of the heel to come back and work later. So for round 25, I will start this round by chaining 22 stitches. If you prefer, you can do foundation single crochets here. Now after chaining 22 stitches, then I'm going to skip 22 stitches, and I threw a stitch marker in here so I could quickly get to where I need to for the video. But you chain 22, skip 22, and then continue to work in the stitch pattern after that for the rest of this round. And we can see we're making a nice hole here for our heel to come back and work later. Now that I'm back around for round 26, I will work single crochet stitches across these chain stitches and then continue to work the rest of the round in pattern. If you did the foundation single crochet stitches here, you can start to work in pattern. So since I can't quite work in pattern with chains, I will just simply single crochet across these 22 stitches for this round and then work them in pattern on the next round. So I've worked a couple more rounds so you can see how this is going to be working up, where we do have this opening here, but we're just continuing to work in the established stitch pattern across this entire, all these stitches. So we'll keep working this up, and this is the leg part, and we're going to build up that leg to the height that we like. Now we're ready to do the top portion of our stocking, which is the cuff. And if you prefer to continue to work in a worsted weight yarn, if you don't have any of this fur yarn and you just want to keep going, I do have an option in the written pattern and on the blog for you to complete the top part of this as just a rib stocking with worsted weight yarn. So I'm going to be using this Fable Fur that's absolutely fabulous, and I'm going to be working the top part of this in this fur yarn. So to get started, I'm still using the same crochet hook, but since this yarn is quite a bit thicker, I'm going to be keeping my stitches loose, but I'm not going to be working every single stitch around. So I'm going to attach my yarn by pulling through the last 2 loops on the previous round, and for this I'm going to be working half double crochets in every other stitch. So in my next stitch I'm going to skip a stitch, and then in my next stitch I'll be doing a half double crochet. One way you can think of this is that in every split single crochet you are going to half double crochet. What this will do is it will take it from 48 stitches to 24 stitches around, but as you can see, it lays quite nicely. If we did every single stitch, I find it starts to really bulge out because this yarn is so much thicker. So we're accommodating for this fluff and giving each of our stitches room so that we don't pull it too tight so that it can remain fluffy as we go. So I'm going to complete this round by working a half double crochet stitch in every other stitch around. So I have done 5 total rounds of half double crochet for this fur yarn, and now I can go ahead and fasten that off and then grab my tapestry needle and weave in that end. The next step we're going to do will be the heel. Now we're ready to work the heel. The first step we want to do is to find one of the stitches on the corner, and we're going to join. We will be working these in single crochet stitches just like we did for the toes so that it matches. So we're not going to be working in that stitch pattern. Now we are going to be doing single crochet stitches all the way around. Mark your first one because we will not be joining. We're going to be working continuously. So we are going to single crochet around. It will be 22 stitches on the bottom and 22 stitches on the top for a total of 44 stitches. But when I get to this next corner, I want to show you something you can do to prevent any holes or gaps. Now for round 3, we're going to be continuing to decrease. So we're going to start our first stitch by doing a single crochet 2 together, marking it, and then single crocheting into the next 8 stitches. So we're just going to continue to follow that pattern. We're decreasing by 4 stitches every round. So this round is single crochet 2 together, single crochet into the next 8 stitches. The next round will be into the next 7, then it will be the next 6, the 5th, and the 4th until we have 20 stitches. So for round 4, we will start by single crocheting 2 together, marking that stitch. Notice I have a hole here. I'm not too worried about it. I can weave it in later. And then single crocheting into each of the next 7 stitches. At the end of round 4, we will have 32 stitches. Now for round 5, we'll start with a single crochet 2 together, and then we are going to single crochet into the next 6 stitches and then repeat that. Now at the end of round 5, we have 28 stitches, and now for round 6, where we will single crochet 2 together, mark that first stitch in the round, and then single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. At the end of this round, we will have a total of 24 stitches. Now for round 7, we will be doing a single crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches and marking it, and then single crochet 4. So we'll single crochet 2 together and single crochet 4 all the way around, and we will have 20 stitches at the end of this round. Now for round 8, we are going to decrease this round by single crocheting 2 together all the way around. So we're simply going to start by doing a single crochet 2 together and marking it. And we're going to do a single crochet 2 together again and again and again until we have finished this round. At the end of this round, we will have a total of 10 stitches left. Now that we are done with that round, we can go ahead and fasten off our yarn. We're going to grab our yarn needle for this next part. So we're going to be looking at this opening and we're going to close it. To do so, we will insert our needle into the very front of the next stitch. So just that front loop, and we will be doing that all the way around. So I just want you to loop through that front loop of each stitch all the way around. Once you have gone through the front loop all the way around, we can simply pull that close. We're just creating a finishing point. You don't want to pull it so tight that it really pulls in that heel, just enough to get that heel dimension, and then we're ready to fasten off. I just want to note something. If you're seeing on a camera like I am, I grab my superwash yarn instead of continuing to use my worsted weight, and you can see that there is a bit of a different dye lot. So I just want to point out you have to be conscious of the yarns that you're grabbing from your stash, because even if it's within the same brand or whatever it may be, there can be different dye lots for each brand of yarn. So I'm probably going to be undoing this and redoing it again, but the directions will be the same. If you want your heel to be a little bit less bulky, you can always go down a hook size on the heel to kind of pull those stitches in. Now the last thing we have to do is, if you want, we can put a tree on here. We're just going to do a little bit of easy embroidery. Now, if you don't want to, that's totally fine. You can leave your stocking as is, but I like this detail. So this is when I grab the wreath heather and also the camel heather, and we're going to create that detail with our yarn needle. So I'm going to start by finding the center, basically the center of this stocking, and I'm going to enter from the top in. I'll show you why this is important later. And I'm going to just create an upside down V. I'm not going to pull this loop all the way through. I'm going to leave a tail, and I'm just going to be creating this upside down V by drawing those lines with my yarn by weaving through these stitches. I use on this top part, you can weave through as many times as you like. I kind of like having these stitches here to keep it even for myself. It's a great way to look and see like, okay, I went here from this stitch, so I'm going to go here from this stitch to keep those stitches even. I like to weave through 3 or 4 times at least for each side of this V. Now that I've created the top V that I like, I'm going to go down a couple stitches and start the next V. And I'm going to make the next V slightly bigger and wider. And now that I've got my second upside down V, I'm going to simply do the same thing again. I'm going to go down a few rows and I'm going to make my next V slightly larger than that. Now, if the tree is the size you want, you can stop here and just have one up top. If you want to keep on going, you can. I may do that, but I just want to show you when you're about to run out of yarn, we want to go ahead and weave back behind here, up back to the top, without pulling it tight. You never want to be tucking the fabric. It can be a little bit loose on the back. And I'm going to use my starting strand and my finishing strand, and we are going to tie those together. Simply doing a double knot. Pull that tight, and then you can fasten that off and use your needle to push it through. That way you don't have to be flipping. If you want to flip inside and out with this one, you can. I just really liked this method when I used it for the miniature gift card stockings because it's hard to get your hands into those ones. And I found just pushing that knot through and just keeping my work on the front was quite nice. So I'm going to keep on going and grab some more yarn and do a little bit of a bigger tree. And now that I've got my tree how I want it, I'm going to go ahead and do a cute little stump. So I'm going to enter my crochet needle into a spot just like I had before, but we're just going to work a stump where I like to work it. I always go back into this point, but I'm going to make it almost like an upside down triangle. You really can make this however you want. It's whatever style you prefer. You can play around with this. The nice thing is it's easy to redo it. If you don't like it, you can just pull it out and try again. It's a really fun detail to have this fun embroidery on top of your stocking. Now that I've got my cute little tree stump about where I want it, this is where I can tie the top without pulling too tight at first, and then get that knot in there, and then it can rotate to the back of my work. And now I can simply push that knot through. Now the very last detail I want to talk about is the leather strip. So I do have a leather hole punch. They sell these at major craft stores. I believe I picked mine up at Joann's. Well, you'll need a pair of scissors and also some scrap leather. If you're at a craft store, sometimes you'll find these grab bags of scrap leather, and they're perfect for projects like this, where I'm just going to cut a strip. They also sell faux leather in the fabric department of many stores. I'm going to simply cut a strip of leather to be the length that I want, and then I'm going to use my hole puncher thing. That you can also do one that you just hammer it and punch a hole, and I'm going to do 2 on each end. And then if you head on over to the sewing department, you'll find rivets. They're so much fun. They snap together. So I'm going to show you how to use these. The leather does shed a bit, so maybe cut it away from your stocking. I'm going to take my strip of my leather, and I'm going to place it on the side of my stocking, and then I'm going to take a rivet and I'm going to place it through the first part of the stocking. I'm going to hold that on the inside, and right where I want to attach that edge is where I'm going to push that rivet through, so I can see that rivet right there. Then I'll fold the top part of this leather over it, grab the front of the rivet, and simply snap those together. And now I have that cute little detail on the side of my stocking with a great way to hang it onto the fireplace. It makes it kind of rustic and I love it. I love that it matches the cute little gift card holder ones, and I just knew once I made these I wanted to make one that was a full size. If your stitches do still lean on you at all, you can do a light blocking to make sure that it evens them out vertically. And I really hope that you enjoyed this project and you come back for more soon. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.